Greetings fellow members of the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Now, no one would probably define me as being young anymore, but there is one thing that takes me back to my youth, and that is opening games. And that's why I like to share these experiences with you, because I get very excited when I get a new game in the post, and it takes me right back to when I was a kid. And today I'm brought right back to being a kid by Core Space, the sci-fi miniatures game by Battle Systems Limited. And it's not just this lovely big box. No, it's also all of this stuff. Oh, wow. How incredibly exciting. There's just a whole pack of amazing stuff here. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be covering Core Space. I'm going to be doing a summary. I'm going to be painting the figures. I'm going to be showing you all about it. Now, I was aware of the fact that Battle Systems, which is an English company, had been creating some fantastic terrain systems. You can see an example of it there. And they've been doing this for a few years, and they've created systems for sci-fi and fantasy and urban terrain as well. But I had no idea that actually created a game to go with it. And this is it, Core Space. I read a review online and I thought, I have got to check that out. So let's check it out together and see what it's like. You may have guessed I'm not a huge fan of dry victory point strategic Euros and stuff like that, because I love toy boxes. Big games of toys and figures to paint and imaginative things to do, and it's just a lot of fun. And look, at the top of this we've got a big kind of mouse mat. Oh wow, look at that. That is beautiful. Fantastic mouse mat as a base. I can use this for lots of things. I can use it for other skirmish games as well. That is really impressive. Very nice. Wow. Okay, we've got some dashboards. These are plastic dashboards for the characters in the game. Really nice and sturdy. Lovely quality, those. This is for another character in the game. I'll show you later. More of these dashboards. Oh look, there's heaps of them. Okay, they're great, really nice. These are the little plastic clips that keep the terrain together. Got some cards, look at that in a moment. Some bases for miniatures in there. A little bag with Core Space written on it. That's nice, isn't it? This looks like some custom dice. Some very nice custom dice there. Pegs, lots of little pegs. These are no doubt used on our plastic dashboards. Now, what do we have here? Just some plain cardboard, don't know what that is. This bit comes out, and then, oh, there we go. There's a box of something. And we've got a nice big rule book. Look, it's perfect bound. It's nice and thick, and it looks great. Now, there's an example of what you can set up in this game. You have fully 3D terrain, you've got painted miniatures. In this game, you're a bunch of traders in space, a little bit like Firefly kind of feel, and you're also fighting against the Purge, which are these robots who are stealing biomass from taking over the galaxy. Here's our rulebook, nice glossy paper. You can also, of course, play campaigns in this game. There's full-on campaigns. You can develop your characters. There's the campaign in there. You can develop your characters over multiple games. You can trade and fight, and it just looks amazing. Look at that. So certainly way beyond your usual skirmish game when it comes to terrain, of course. There we go, heaps of stuff. Now it just so happens they were kind enough to send me a hardcover deluxe rulebook. And this came shrink wrapped, but I couldn't help myself. I've already ripped it open. And there it is, the rulebook in hardback. Lovely. So this must be our terrain. Lots of thick cardboard. Let's have a look. One thing I read about in the hardcover book is the history of this game. A couple of guys started putting this terrain together and then always wanted a game as well, and this is it. And the enthusiasm and excitement they have for this kind of gaming really came across. So we've got some little character dashboards here. Oh no, these are for spacecraft. Some counters. Everything's thick cardboard, nice glossy finish. And in fact, you actually use a dry erase marker to mark the spots on your little character here. And they're not ones that change during the game, they're ones that change during the campaign. So you keep track of it by writing on there. And then, during the game, you keep track of the stats with little pegs. So that very neatly goes into there, and then you use little pegs to keep track of your main stats there. And you can also put your weapon counters and stuff there, and other things, skills and things in there. So lovely little dashboard idea. Here's some more characters. It looks like we've got a range ruler of some sort there. Lots of little counters for weapons. You have to keep track of your ammo as well. And then we get on to, and this is nice, it's in a matte finish, which is good because we wouldn't want all the terrain to be glossy. These are various terrain elements. You've got crates, and you actually open up the little crates and take out the weapon counters from inside them, which is a nice touch. Crates, more bits of terrain. There's some nice billboards and signs included as well, which is great. And then we get onto the terrain itself. All little walls. And I'm really going to have to put this together and show you, aren't I? This is certainly going to be visually spectacular. There we go. You know, the other thing this reminds me of is the old Space Crusade by Games Workshop and Milton Bradley, which had just the crossing over walls in the middle, and that was about it really, but this has a lot more detail. Right, we've come to the end of the box. Let's have a quick look at the cards and then the miniatures. So we have a small deck of event cards. Purge activity, hive interference, unseen enemies, supply cache. Computer says no, computer says no. There we go. Great stuff, event cards. And here's the miniatures we get in the core set. Oh, it's some space for storing other things as well. Let's have a look at the miniatures from the core set. These are the crew of the Black Maria, or Black Mariah if you prefer. And they're nice little figures. These are going to look good when they're painted up. Now these are more your true 25 to 28 millimeter scale figures, so they're smaller than normal, and this probably goes well with the terrain in that it makes the terrain look larger. If I take a Games Workshop figure, which we all know are huge, you can see it's quite a bit bigger. There you go, but they're huge heroic scale. So they're a bit smaller, but still nice. Then we've got the crew of the Ion Hope. There we go. And finally, 3 civilians. Good to see an alien civilian in there as well. And here are the relentless Terminator-like Purge, who are humanoid robots. And there's an even more humanoid type one there. And some stronger looking robots there. Very nice. Okay, that was the core set. Now let's look at these expansions. We've got 3 here. The Galactic Core, Shootout at Zeds, and Purge Outbreak. Let's start with Galactic Core. It's like going back to Christmas as a kid, isn't it? Whoops. Here's the rulebook. And of course, scenarios galore, showing you how to set up the terrain and special rules, etc. Okay, I've got some cardboard here. There's some more characters. Core Director, Security Warden, Juggernaut, Guard. Now you notice there's some lovely little touches here. You've got a spot here that you can punch out, and that's your armor spot. So if you punch that out and put an armor token in there, it means you're wearing armor. Got those. We have some more terrain. This is kind of a round platform of sorts. You can see it here. And some more incidental terrain. Oops. There's a few more event cards, another dice, and some miniatures. Here are the figures from the Galactic Core. Another wonderful day in the Core. Really nice, particularly liking this guy. Okay, shootout at Zed's. And this is a whole building, a two-story building in fact. It's a gang hideout of sorts. And more miniatures. Event cards. There's our miniatures. Our rulebook. Another spacecraft. And then we've got Zed's interesting looking building. Ah, it's so much more interesting than just having a board, isn't it? And a whole bunch of characters. There's Zed himself. And a bunch of nefarious ne'er-do-wells. Here we've got the figures from Shootout at Zed's. And you can see, despite the smaller scale, there's really quite a lot of lovely detail in these figures. I think they're going to paint up quite beautifully. Check this guy out. A lot of animation in that pose. Very nice. And finally, Purge Outbreak. More terrain and more Purge figures. Look at this guy. Here are the rules. And the missions. So many hours of gaming. A couple of Purge boards and various counters. And more lovely terrain. Oh, alien terrain. Ugh. Very creepy. Of course, some more event cards and miniatures. Now the figures from Purge Outbreak, and of course we've got these little alien scuttling spider things. You can bet your life they blow up when you get close to them. And then this weird looking thing. Very nice aesthetic, and this guy looks quite nasty. Now I've got a couple of extra crews, the Poseidon crew and the Skylark crew. You can buy crews with their shipboards, and it's a whole little gang to use in the game. As you can see, the whole thing has a real nice cyberpunk feel as well. Crew of the Poseidon. There she is. There are the crew boards, event cards, and miniatures. And of course the shipboard. And here's the crew of the Poseidon. And then the Skylark. And there they are. Great robot. Here we've got the crew of the Skylark. Great robot. Just needs a bit of hot water treatment on the base for that one. He's a bit wobbly, but a lot of character in these figures. Well, check this out. Doesn't it look fantastic? I couldn't finish this unboxing without showing you everything set up. And this uses pretty much all the terrain from the core set, but look at the fantastic play area you can have with that terrain. I've already painted up about half of the figures, very easy to paint, and as you can see they look fantastic. These figures are a smaller scale than most miniatures you get now, but I think it's great actually because it gives the terrain a good sense of scale, and there's just something really nice about going back to that old scale. I think figures are sort of getting a little bit too big these days. It's a little bit lazy making the scale of figures creep up to such huge sizes. Games Workshop ones especially are so big these days. But anyway, I really like these. They're simple and easy to paint, as I said, but they've got a lot of character. The other thing you can see I've done is I've decided to mount the miniatures on clear bases. You can get these clear bases online, very easy to find. Of course, don't forget to varnish the figure before you cut the base off and mount it on the clear base. And it's just a matter of clipping off the plastic base of the original figure and then using a scalpel to shave down underneath the feet, and then a tiny bit of super glue, not too much because drying super glue can spoil the transparency of the base. With a tiny bit of super glue you mount it on the clear base. The great thing about this of course is that you can see the fantastic terrain mat through the base of the figure. Well, my gaming friends, I hope I gave you a bit of that feeling that you have at Christmas when you're a kid and open your new toys. I certainly had it with Core Space. It looks fantastic. Some great miniatures. The terrain looks fantastic. I'm really looking forward to getting this on the table. And of course, I'll be giving it a lot of coverage here on the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Look out for a rules summary and also some videos covering my adventures as I delve into Core Space by Battle Systems. Hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's the Esoteric Order of Gamers, orderofgamers.com, where you can find hundreds of fantastic rules summaries. And of course, on this channel, you can find hundreds of fantastic videos. Please subscribe, make sure to check all notifications, and of course, check me out on social media. See you next time, and I hope you enjoyed this trip into Core Space. Space.